Good evening, Louis.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So, hello everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I think we can start with the office hours. If anyone has any questions, we can start. Please post to Louis, and Louis is ready.
I saw in the group that someone was asking if they can push it to a later hour. Unfortunately, I can't do later hour because on the time zone that I'm in, it's like 9 o'clock at night. So if I would push it to later, it would be 10, 11. It would be too late for me. That's why it's
No,
this hour.
that's fine. That was me. That's
Okay,
fine.
no. Sorry about that.
No problem, Louis. But yeah, even though we postponed, we are not sure about others' availability as well. So it's fine to continue as planned. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
So again, a lot of students may not have a lot of questions or things they might want to bring up simply because last question was more about the construct of a prompt, what's the role, what's the context, how to do good prompt constructions. So I think some of you may have been very good doing prompting. So maybe this is why there's not a lot of people joining in for the chat for this side.
I have a quick question on the lab, Google
Yep.
Colab. So can I share my screen and show?
Of course.
I need
Make sure
sharing
has
is not turned on.
Yeah, please try now.
Okay. So this is a GitHub. I'm in the GitHub, right? So I took this one to clone this URL, and I went to here, git clone. That is a URL, and this works.
Great.
Yeah, so it came here. Now I nicely see, just like in GitHub, all these things, right? So I go here, and if I double click this one, it's opening here. It should open here in the code. It's
Yeah,
opening.
it's 'cause Google Colab is a little different from that. So unfortunately, you would have to save this somewhere. And then maybe in your Google Drive, if you connect it to your Google Drive, save that there. And then you can click, then what you have to do is click File, Open Notebook. And then when you navigate to that folder where you saved it, and then you can open it that way, or else it's only going to give you the Python code on the right side.
So that means what you're saying is that I can
Okay, copy this folder over.
mount this into my Google Drive and mount the Google Drive.
Yep.
And from Drive, double click, it will open here.
No, so when you copy to your Google Drive, all you have to do then is go to File, look on the top left of your Google Colab file, on the above, just above, just a little bit higher. Yep, there. File, Open Notebook and Drive.
Then it will open one at a time. You can open.
Yeah, so once you open the notebook that way, it'll read in the notebook, or also just read it to the right side like a Python code. Yeah.
Oh, it can open from Google Drive. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
So that would help, yeah, for sure. And then you just run everything in. Just make sure you have in your secrets your Google API. So I'm excited for this Saturday's class. It's gonna be no very slow, never no slides, just like a 1 or 2 intro, and then we're gonna be breaking into groups, going over the codes itself. I have a fun game that we're gonna be doing as well, so I'm looking forward to it.
I just missed it, Louis. You mentioned you have a fun game. Is it for the Saturday or today?
For Saturday. No, today's more just for anyone who's coming in who's had issues running things in Google Colab, or had issues trying to open things or trying to run things, or questions about promptings. So I just thought that open like this office hour for those who more of a technical questions than that. So
Hey, Luis.
yes.
Hey, Luis, this is Satya. So want to ask you, like I went through the doc, like I was not feeling well, so like I just went through the doc, crystal clear, not an issue. The thing is, want to ask you, like the expectation is like just get acquainted with the all the parameters, like okay, first of all with uh, the model that you're trying to use. The second thing is play with the parameters like temperature, k values and p values, whatever, right? That's pretty much it is, right? And try with the different prompts.
Yeah, like just so like what my expectation would just be like this is why I wanted this to be more of a beginner class, like so this is why I created the code so
Uh-huh.
everyone can run, view it
Right.
themselves,
Uh-huh.
don't have to worry about coding themselves, but all they do is like, okay, I want to adjust the temperature, change that 1 to
Sure, sure.
0.5 and see how
Uh-huh.
different that happens, right? So
Okay,
just
okay.
really for you to really grasp it. And in the class, I'm not sure if you were at the beginning of the class, I think I had the class last Saturday, was that I showed you can compare models on that Google
Yes, yes.
Developer, right? So
Uh-huh.
try one model, is it really smarter than the other? And
Right,
how
right.
and try it for yourself, because once you get into different use cases, you have to understand
Uh-huh.
which models will be best for your use case.
Okay, sure. So the like as in the Gemini, like the top of the model versus the lower one, right? And like just compare the models and see for yourself how it gives a various kinds of things, right? Yeah, I'll try it out. One thing I noticed is the Google Colab, right? Some of the things are I don't know like if it's a copy paste issue or what. Or were you testing us to see like if you're really doing it properly or not? The model is instantiated session is right after the model or something like that, and like it's two lines are jumbled, so obviously it won't work. So I had to just keep it, like first instantiate the model and then use that for for the chat session or whatever. Were
So
you trying it out? Were you
so
were
the
you testing us?
so on the first notebook, I didn't put a code
Uh-huh,
that said where it says initiate, like we were saying, start the conversation.
uh-huh,
Um,
uh-huh.
I put that, so I left that out there and to see if anyone would catch it. But
Okay.
people started running it and they're like, no, I didn't get, I got an error, I got an error. I'm like, okay, people are catching it now. People are trying. That was my clue to make sure people were running the notebooks. And
Oh,
then I
sure, sure, sure.
went
Oh,
back and I uploaded the notebook again now with that
uh-huh.
specific code of running it to
Right,
see.
right. I tried it. I got the issue, and then afterwards, I took the latest version, and then that had two lines jumbled. Actually, like then I had to change it just to see if it works fine, and then I stopped there. Actually, I'm going to revisit it tomorrow, and then run them, and then try to run with the comparisons and all of that stuff.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly it. So get into it, really get into it and learn it.
definitely, definitely. Thanks, Louis. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, like probably at some point in time, I'll talk to you about the generative AI. It's more for like um, the code the code gen kind of a thing. Like the reason is like I'll tell you like actually I'm in the middle of deployment. Actually, the production deployment.
Okay.
I thought
Okay.
I'll chat with you and then like I'll probably next week like I'll chat with you probably in more detail
Mhm.
just to get some ideas on like how these agents can be used for code changes or like train I mean, and then understand some of the concepts like do people really train the model for their specific domain kind of a thing, right? Those kind of things. I'll talk to you next week. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And we're gonna be talking about that. I think on the second last class,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna be how to put generic code, generic AI production in production, and how
Uh-huh.
you can do that with ML. So
Okay.
I'll be going through the SLDC life cycle, like a software development life cycle. And the
Uh-huh.
hardest part of getting things into production is the evaluation. So a lot of people can create Gemini POCs, a lot of people can do that, but how can you really validate that your chatbot's working or your agent's going to work? You need to have strong evaluation. And this is where a lot of companies or a lot of people right now are still trying to investigate. So I'm trying to give you best practices of if you have a RAG, how are you going to evaluate it? And unfortunately, going and asking questions one by one, prompting is not enough. We have to have something
Correct.
a little bit more deeper, but that's why I'll definitely get into that to make sure you guys are all
Definitely.
prepared.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Luis.
Yep, no worries.
Bye.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
I think someone posted in the WhatsApp group a really good article about prompt injection, and I read over it, and it was really well written. So if you here's a hint for Saturday's class, is that read over the document and try to understand what kind of prompt injections they were doing in that article. So that's a heads up for people who are here right now with us to if you want an extra hint on what game we're doing on Saturday, read up that article. That's all I have to say.
So, Luis, so when we have like large amount of documents, let's say we have some run books and we want to take decisions in which run book should be used for a particular issue that we obtained. That run book is large, right? So just with prompt engineering, it's going to be difficult, right? We have to ingest large amount of data it has to process and give output. So in those cases, do we use RAG or is it like, do we do prompt engineering only there?
That's a good question. So let me just understand your use case. Your use case is that you have large amounts of data, like large amount of documents, and let's say they're training manuals, right? I don't know like what kind of documents they are, and they're thick, right? They may be 100, 300 pages, 400, 1,000 pages long each one, and there's 10 of them. So how can LLM learn from that and be able to make a decision? Is that your question?
Correct. Yeah, what to do for any particular issue that you obtained, the manual will have what to do, so it has to suggest.
Perfect. So we actually, just pushed this one to production in the company I'm working at right now that had the exact same issue. They have over 300 training manuals and documents, and they want an LLM to be able to read those and respond with the response of what one should be doing. So the most easiest and cost effective, again, the word cost effective, is doing a RAG, which you're going to have to grab all those 300 documents, chunk them, put them into a vector storage. And we'll talk about this, not this class, but next class, next Saturday, how to create basic RAGs and how to create advanced RAGs. That will take all these documents, put them into a vector storage database, and then when you prompt your LLM, before it answers you, it's going to check the vector storage database and then be able to pull out the best answer from that way. So that's the most cost-effective way. Obviously, if you have unlimited money and they're like, okay, we have all this budget in the world, then you can fine-tune a model based off those manuals. So you can grab a data sheet, have question, and you can break your notebook into a Q&A pair, a question answer type of thing, or you can grab the training manual and say, when something breaks, you should be doing the following rules and copying all those rules into your fine-tuning section. So then the model would obviously, this is the most expensive, because if you have a lot of documents and you're training a model, you're going to be spending a lot of time of your efforts fine-tuning a model, and then the cost is going to depends how big your model is. If you're doing a smaller model, could be 5,000-10,000, could be upwards to be higher if you're having a lot more, right? So in terms of cost effectiveness, creating a RAG, doing all that, it's really low. It's probably under $500 to do that if you're having like a production ready site, versus unlimited money, then you go fine tune like crazy, right? So a lot of people, that's why they go to RAG first in order to do that. Now, how models are advancing, Gemini Pro 2 Gemini Pro Flash 0.2 is trying to have a 2.5 million context. So what does that mean? That can consume up to 2 Harry Potter books and a half, right? And those are thick things. So if you're able to feed all that information to an LLM in a prompt and the system prompt, it will be able to answer. The only thing though is how much does 1 million prompt context cost? So if you're looking at the inputs and you say, okay, to ask the LLM with 1 million context window is going to cost me 7 cents. Then every single time I'm going to ask a question with that context window, it's going to cost me 7 cents. And times that by how many questions are asked per day, that will add up, right? So in terms of being cost effective, I would always go back to the RAG because you don't have to put all of that into the memory before it answers. So there's different ways you can approach it.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely the cost. Which one yeah.
And even the latency also, right? Like, will the latency increase if we like give like 1 million tokens of input?
Correct as well. Yeah.
And in terms of RAG, is it also like efficient latency wise? Like the latency will be better, is it?
You can definitely make it more efficient. You can reduce latencies. There's different things you can even do on vector storage to extract better answers. So it's definitely more the easiest and most cost-effective way and fastest way so far.
Thanks.
Luis, perhaps I'm asking a repeating question, but I'm actually asking this because I want to manage the code properly. It's for now I'm actually I'm downloading each notebook at a time, but perhaps it's I heard you suggesting push into Google Drive. I tried to do that, but I could not somehow can properly make use of this.
Yeah, maybe you can share your screen and
Yeah,
then we can go through it
let me do that.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, let me do that. Sorry.
Okay. Do you have the requirement docs document open?
I have it up here. I just zipped it.
Okay.
I also have the raw copy without zip. So should it be zip copy or raw copy?
It doesn't matter. You can unzip the file there, right? I think you can right click on
Yeah, I
it.
can unzip it. Should I unzip it here?
Yeah, you can unzip it there. It's okay. If it's connected to your drive, you can unzip.
Okay.
So I think if you
Well, I already have. I zipped it thinking that would be the right way to do,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
instead do this.
No worries. Perfect. So all you have to do now is go back to Google Colab, and then you click File, Open, Notebook in Drive,
Yeah.
and then you look for go to your Google Drive, and then you open those notebooks that you just ingested in. So I think you have to go search for.
But however, that's not a notebook, it's a folder, right?
It should be, you should be looking inside that folder though. There's no way to look for it in that folder. Does it not appear?
So here I would search for independent notebooks here.
Yeah, you should be able to do that, or maybe click on upload. I'm trying to think of.
Or else maybe I can tell you one suggestion.
Yep.
Can you click on cancel? Go to the file here in the file menu. Yeah, upload the notebook, the fifth one. Upload the notebook and upload in the last one. The upload and the browse and select each an individual. Browse wherever you unzip in the local.
Sure.
Select one particular one. If you want particular one or you want everything.
No, I'm looking for everything. I already have selected ones, but I saw someone.
Yeah,
Maybe.
so open that one.
Yeah,
Within the
open. Click
Google
on
Lab. Yeah, you
Oh.
should be open that one more. Sorry, yeah, and then element the Google Colab ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only doing one at a time here.
So yeah, so
Which
that's
I already did it myself,
hmm
but it's too much to manage because if it's in, this is local, right? If it's in Google Drive,
Yeah.
changes automatically get copied, saved.
Subbu, that's what I asked in the beginning of the class.
I know you did that.
So, you can git clone everything. It will come into your collab environment. The problem there is if you double click, it will open on the side as a notepad. So you can copy paste into each code block and then run them independently.
No, I was able to, I have a bunch of stuff here, right? Independently. That's all fine. But
How did you do that? How did you copy paste and you create a new one, or
I opened one at a time, downloaded.
one at a time? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the other way, opening one at a time.
This is easy, but I want it to be like
So there's
categorized
only more
together.
efficient, right? Yeah.
But if it's okay, if it's not a big deal. It's a sort of, I thought maybe it's cool to do together.
Yeah, yeah, maybe you can just do it. That's fine. Like, and plus, there's no one really answering questions, so we can use this
So-
time to do this. Let's find something more efficient to do it then. So I think so on a notebook, you open and you mount your drive. So open a new notebook.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have a new. So you mount your drive in the files on the file side, right? So
Click on this one, new notebook on Drive.
yeah, so new notebook. You can put new notebook in Drive. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then you just do the Google mount. When you can click on that, you can do that. Yeah, there's many ways you can do it, right? How I do it is I just click the folder on the folder button on the underneath the environment keys.
Mhm.
And then there should be a Google Drive. Third one should be that one. I click on that, connect to Google Drive that way. And it should pop a drive. It should pop some code right into your notebook.
It's mounting. This may take some time. Oh boy.
So you have it. So you have your drive open. So it's
Okay.
there now, right? After mounted, you can access your files in Google Drive. So go to File, Open Notebook. So the
Gotcha.
file, so on the file on the top, sorry, not that one. Not that one, just on the top, at the very top. Sorry, not this folder, but underneath Untitled one, like what the name is, there's another file menu, right? The not this file menu, but the one above it that has file.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
I think it's
Keep going up. There you go. Up more. It's
no,
not.
that's what I can see. It's not moving up further.
No. Like this is the folder file, right? So I'm not talking about this menu, the menu above it. This is File, Edit, Insert, Runtime. That one. There you go. So click on File, and then Open Notebook.
Yeah.
And then click Google Drive, and there's all those notebook inside your Google Drive now that you mounted should show up in here.
Okay. Okay, I see what you mean. You pick one at a time. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
we'll
I'll
take
pick
it
it.
from there.
I'll take it from here. I think it's my drive is so big. It's my that's why it's almost 75 GB, as you can see.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'll deal with this. Yeah.
Yeah, see if you can use this. You can use this half hour to see if you can get it open and run it from there, right?
Yeah, sure. You guys can continue other more meaningful discussions.
Yeah, no worries.
And, hi, Luis.
Yes.
I have a question. Okay, you mentioned about the RAG. In the RAG, actually, generally we will use the when we are searching for any question. Generally, the way is generally we'll use an semantic search. I believe semantic search. Yeah, but I believe it's not efficient. But there are some things which are available in the market. GraphDB search. Because GraphDB search, it creates communities. That's what I think Facebook or Twitter or a lot of other companies use this. And in case if you want to use the hybrid search, I know there are ways to use the hybrid search. One is the semantic search. Next one is the keyword search. Next one is the graph search. Yeah, that's correct. Cosine similarity search. semantic search, cosine similarity search, cosine similarity, all these things. But in order to implement this one, how we can implement it? Are you going to cover all these things here?
Yeah, so there's a lot that you talked about that has different ways you can do all those type of searches. So how to do all those searches really depends on which database you have. So you mentioned one specifically, for example, hybrid search, right?
Yes.
Hybrid search can only be done in certain databases. So example, one famous one is Pinecone. Pinecone database can do hybrid search. But if you were doing you were using another database, let's say you have one stored somewhere else using a different, like simple VectorDB, or DuckDB or all those ones, they don't have hybrid search. And they don't have that part in there. So in order to understand which type of search you can do, you have to first understand where you're going to store your vectors. And some of them are paid. So unfortunately, some of them will say, okay, if you pay this much money, we'll store it for you and we can increase the speed of your vector searches. We can do this, we can do the following type of searches for you. So it's really about which database which vector storage you're using, and then once you understand which vector storage, which of these 11 I just put in the chat, which of these type of searches will help you. So like you're saying, semantic search of sometimes is not always the best, but it's usually the one that's the default, right? What's the graph search that
Yes.
you're saying? Look, use that. There's nearest neighbors. There's hybrid search, similarity search, the spatial search. So there's those different ones. So I'm going to be teaching maybe 2 or 3 of these in the class with examples showing a basic RAG and an advanced RAG, doing these different types of searches you can do on a vector storage database. But I'm thinking some of these will have to go to more an advanced class that you can actually go down deeper and start coding and be able to do different types of experiments of getting better RAG, getting RAG search. And the one that's actually not here, I'm actually doing right now, is that you can fine tune your embeddings to make it better and store those as your vector database as well. So fine tuning your embeddings can get you better results. So that's
Fine
another.
tuning means instead of using open embeddings, I can use the Hugging Face embeddings. I can use the OpenAI embeddings or Gemini embeddings or Amazon
So-
embeddings. Is that
So
one?
for example, there's a really good embedding. So example, first of all, like this is for the advanced class, but we can talk about this here. But you have to understand what, like example, what language you're using. Is it English? Like you have to understand what it is. Is it coding? Is it English? Is it whatever? What is your context? Then once you understand what your context that you're trying to do, is it pictures? Is it, like example, you have to first understand what you have. Once you understand what you have, then you can look for open source models that are really good for the vector store embeddings. So one's really good for English that's more open source that people are using right now that's getting really great results. Let me just pull one right up here. Let me just look it up here. Sorry about that. I didn't come prepared for this, but it's fine. We can talk about it. I think it's this one. Let me just probably paste it in the chat. Well, this one is this one here. EG base E versus E5. So this one is designed specifically for English text embeddings and has really great performance. And again, it really depends on which model you're using. You can use OpenAI's embeddings models. You can choose ChatGPT, or like I said, if you're doing both of them, you're still not getting great results. Then I go back to the traditional and say, okay, what's the best open source embedding model you have? Then you can fine tune your embedding model to do better on the text that you have. So you can create sort of some pairs of positive and negative examples and train your embedding model to understand better the context. So then when you do someone asks a question and they do that similarity score, you can get better results with a better embedding model. But that's yeah.
Luis, a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Um, you provided a possible type of searches here, right? So often these searches are done independently, and also it's actually made up of several systems supporting each search, right? And you did mention DuckDB. So DuckDB is primarily it was started as a relational DB, but they are approaching other searches also. So is it? Am I hearing that DuckDB is supporting more than one type of search? Is that correct understanding?
No, so what I meant was like when you go down the process of, let's say you do a RAG and you're not getting the results and you're asking something from a manual, it's giving you something completely wrong, like what's going on, and you've done everything you possible can, then it's when you go back and say, okay, what's the vector storage base am I using? So if you're using, let's say I want to go back to Pinecone because Pinecone's one of the best ones out there. I'm using Pinecone. What am I not using that could be better? So I go back to that search and say, oh, Pinecone supports hybrid search. So I'm going to incorporate hybrid search into my RAG pipeline and say, okay, I'm going to increase the K neighbors, I'm going to increase this, I'm going to increase that, and see what really happens to my RAG. So now you added another level other than just semantic search, you added hybrid search, and now you're getting better results. So simply because you're able to look for different ways of approaching a RAG and looking at, okay, what can this database can do and search for it. So you really get down to it, and that's the whole point of doing things like this is if you're doing it very basic and you do one shot and it works perfectly, then that's great. You don't have to worry about more. But if you're asking questions, then you're getting really wonky answers, and you evaluate, you're like, okay, what's wrong? And this when you go back, as Suri was saying, you try different types of searches and you try to get better ones. So if you try to do too much semantic search, you might get too much little responses. If you try similarity search, you might ask something, you might not get a response, although it's 60% accurate. So, and you can even set filters. For example, even in your similarity search, I want only things that are over 70% accurate, that 70% similar. And that way things that are coming through aren't going to come through, right? So there's different approaches, different ways to get into the RAG and really make it better.
I see.
And
So-
so follow go ahead, Subbi. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'll go through. So in this case, essentially what I'm hearing is, given you have a set of searches available, and also a RAG can be built upon one or many of these possible searches together, so that you can optimize your search experience, so that you can figure out what's the more optimal and accurate RAG experience you can get. That way you can fixate it on your design. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. So it's
Okay.
it's like going back to what I was saying before, it's an art. So
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no such thing called a right or wrong or binary answer here. It's about what works for your situation.
yes. So go back, sir. You're saying something, you were going to say something afterwards.
Yeah. Look, my question, follow-up question is, okay, we have multiple searches and we have multiple embeddings. In order to experiment which works better, I think, is there any testing techniques or any metrics, not with the manual, with the automation? Like if the manual means maybe I can write 10 questions, I can ask and I can get the answers. But in order to test different combinations, we have 10 different types of searches, and we have a lot of open models, open embedding models, and we have a lot of vector databases. So it's very difficult to find out which is the optimum, which works for our use case. So is there any better way to do this one?
Yes, and the answer is yes. And that comes down to the evaluation part of your pipeline. So when we talk about this next Saturday, we're going to go through your documents, your vector storage, your RAG, but the most important part is evaluations. How can you do evaluations on a RAG and not do it manually if you have a simple 10,000 documents? And you have so many things. So how can you evaluate this, and how do you know what's working, what's not working, and how do you get it down on difference? What are those metrics? So there are the biggest one that a lot of companies are doing right now, and it's doing is something called LLM as a judge. LLM as a judge I know it's just LLM testing an LLM, right? But right now it's sort of what everyone's doing in terms of there's different metrics you can do. So there's grounding, relevancy. So you have to create a golden data set based off your RAG from this golden data sets, you can say, these are the questions and these are the answers I want answered, and I know exactly these are correct. Then you put your RAG against the golden data set and have it answer all the questions that you have against your golden data set. Based off this score against this golden data set, you're going to have different metrics. So are the answers grounded? Was it grounded? Was it relevant? Was it accurate? There's different types of metrics you can pull out, and that will tell you how well your RAG is doing. And you're just getting low results. And an example, one other one's relevancy. Is it not being relevant? Okay, I'm gonna go back to my RAG pipeline, adjust my semantic search to, if it's 0.5, very basic, let's adjust it to 0.3 and see if we can capture more information. Go back 0.3, run your pipeline again. Do you see that metrics increasing?
What is the metric?
What is 0.3 to 0?
Yeah.
So I'm just testing if you in your RAG pipeline, if you put semantic search, if you had certain and you can put, for example, semantic search, similarity search, you can put from 0 to 10 how you want your model to pull the information, right? So in terms of if 0.8 means you want it to be very similar, very, very high, versus 0.1 is very loose, right? So each of these different searches you can do on your RAG. It depends on.
Are you referring to temperature or something else?
Is it like
No,
temp?
so it's really hard to explain it without my RAG graph, but when inside the RAG, let's see if I can just pull up one on Google.
And also one more thing, the main challenge will be creating a golden data set.
Yeah, so that's one that takes a long time to do, because and if you have your epic features and stories, you know what you're trying to do. You should have a QA analyst being able to have the QA, pretty much a QA analyst should be creating that golden data set for you, in the sense that, yeah.
But the question is, does the RAG sees the golden data set, or you wanted to compare the output of RAG with golden data set?
So the RAG, your RAG should not see the golden data set at all.
Exactly, correct?
Yeah, it's not.
So
The
that
golden
means-
data set is your own. It's what you consider to be 100%. You verified it, you checked it, and you know exactly what it should be doing.
It's very similar to what you do in a typical traditional model, ML models. That means you have a question and answers. You have the answers for the golden data set you prepare, but you ask the same questions to RAG. You're comparing your golden data set answers against RAG answers to figure out whether how much of relevancy exists or doesn't exist.
It's like LLM Q automation, RAG Q automation.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me share my screen to show you like example of like how a graph would look like once you sort of develop something like this. And there's lots. So there's ones you can pay for, and there's open source ones, and we'll talk about those on next Saturday as well, because I don't have them with me. But we'll talk about how to start evaluating your model, right? And how and there are open source ways of how to do these metrics. So example, on your context, on your faithfulness, answer relevancy, your recall, context, answer correctness, and answer similarity. So you can test different types of RAG. So let's say you can have one that you've done hybrid search on, that you just said, I want to build it only on hybrid search. I did another RAG I built on similarity search. I did another RAG I built on this. So you've done different techniques. Now you want to compare them to see how well each RAG does against your golden data set. So then you would have these RAG metrics to compare how each model is doing, and from there choose which model is the best, right? Across all metrics. So example, this one, Ensemble RAG, that example this person is showing, is showing higher results in the relevancy, answer similarity, sample score. So that would really help you guide, saying, okay, my Ensemble RAG actually looks like it's actually doing the best one. And that's when I've incorporated hybrid search and similarity search. I included both of them together, right? So this is how you would really help your team develop those metrics against that golden data set, so you can have hard metrics and know how your model is doing. So how this is going to help too, once you understand that you have this happening, and you example, from here you see a big gap in context relevancy. Well, why do you have a big gap in context relevancy?
But it's also you're overfitting, right?
Overfitting, well, depends on your use case. Like if your use case is like, someone needs to tell me that if I have an issue with buying new shoes, it needs to tell me that I need to contact support, and here's a phone number. right? I know that for sure, and that has to 100% be right. So if I ask the question, how do I return my shoes, and it's not answering it right, then that's where I have to fine tune my model to be better, right? So you're not overfitting. You know, like it should be answering one way, like it needs to answer that way. So how do you get it to answer that way, right? So it's not about that overfitting. It's about making sure in terms of accuracy and correctness, it's actually doing its job.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, this is definitely a very interesting topic. I
Yeah,
know,
it is.
no, not this week, but next week, next Saturday, when I'll go deeper into it. Normal RAG, advanced RAG, evaluation metrics. I know not that office hour is gonna be packed.
Yeah, we are preparing 2 weeks in advance,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And also where we are going to set 0.3, 0.5, all these things that you mentioned in the RAG, we can set it up. The semantic search,
Yeah. So
may not be
yeah.
now. When you get a chance, maybe here
So-
will be difficult.
Yeah, so maybe we can actually just do it based off ChatGPT, just for an example, right? Because we're fine here and we're having some fun, right? No one else, unless someone here has a really tough, really good question about prompting before we jump into that. Before
And I have some more follow-up questions also.
I know.
And these are the things. Okay, these are evaluation metrics. All the things. Are we going to test the QA like LLM automation, like all these things? Are we going to test it in the Langsmith? Or can we use the ML flow, or like what basis we can choose which is the best one? Do you have any better models for all these although automation?
So right now, MLflow is one of the top ones right now that's open source. That's really doing really great in terms of evaluation. So when you create your MLflow and you can build those metrics out, like what you have to have, again, you create an LLM as a judge. You tell them all the metrics and how it's going to be done. Then you can use MLflow to log that run against your golden data set. And then from MLflow, create a metrics dashboard, right? Once it's done, to create that dashboard and create those evaluation metrics. It's really cool, fun part. It's a really good process.
And this ML flow, just we'll use it for automation, like finding out the metrics, or are we using for deploying also? Deployment of the models to the production, integration, or release management, anything?
It's up to you. Like again, it's up to you, up to your use case, up to how each company runs. There's different ways, but only in this class, because this is a beginner's class, what I'm going to be doing is showing how to run a RAG on Streamlit using a Streamlit app through an endpoint. So you create your endpoint, you create your Python file, and then using Streamlit, you can call into your Python file to start a chatbot that way. Or you can create your own just directly from Streamlit, just importing your Google API into it, and you can start having a conversation without doing everything else. So I'll be showing those very basic ways, simply because this is a basic course, but you're asking very good questions that as someone going into getting too deeper and doing that business evaluation needs to look into.
And also one more question is, okay, if you take any LLM, okay, if I go and ask, can you give me the gender of the nurse? By default, it gives as female, but nurse is not defined to the female. Nurse can be a male also. So
Right.
these are all some kind of biases, or how are we going to? I'm not talking about this one. I'm just talking in general. If it is a gender bias, or are we going to address this one using the guardrails, or what are the best methods to implement?
So you missed
Yeah.
the last week cohort.
Yeah, we talked about that, right? So we had a good, I think the last class we had a good we had a good conversation about how to unbias a model. So let me just pause my screen here. Let me see if I can pull
So
it up.
jokes apart, Luis covered that significantly nicely. If you missed the last class, the recording should have it.
Sure, definitely. If it is there, then that's fine, Luis. No need. Then you can take up. Maybe
And
some
you can ask
people
the
will be
question.
waiting.
I'm just telling you information so that you have more coverage in the recording.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so
sir.
in the
Thank you.
recording, I go through it deeply of how to write prompts to go against the unbiased, to unbias your model. There is ways like LlamaGuard to help your output at the very end. That's a little advanced for this course because I doubt like a majority of these individuals are going to be going in and implementing a full-fledged productionized RAG. But again, and that's something in the advanced course I'm thinking about doing. is showing how to implement guardrails before it gets out, right? So there's different things you can do in a RAG to make it really good. And you can include reflections, you can include chain of thoughts like we had before. You can include guardrails that do this. You can actually have translations of different words of different models happening inside your RAG pipeline. Of course, you just understand that as you include more complexity into your RAG, latency will increase as well. LlamaGuard is known to increase latency in that as well. So just have to be careful of all the different complexities you put into your model. If latency, if speed is your the best way to go through.
What is LlamaGuard, by the way, Luis?
Yeah, so LlamaGuard is a sort of a way to help protect your text against sensitivity, hate, saying things that you shouldn't say. For example, let's say you have someone trying to do prompt injections. Let's say your company is an expert of building militia, right? Building bombs or
Okay,
something
I
like that.
see.
So you can
Essentially, you're creating the guiding principles and controls around what to say, what not to say.
So it's not a guiding principle, so it's not part of the prompting guide. It's actually its own separate code that you sort of create that sort of filters the output of the LLM before it reaches to the output. So in your RAG pipeline, someone's saying how to create the bomb, it's going to go into your LLM. Let's say they did a prompt injection, they were able to pass it, goes into your history, grabs that information, and right before it hits the output, that goes through a check, and this check is your LlamaGuard, which we call like LlamaGuard, which is a last code input check or a function in which you tell it to say, is it including anything harmful? Is it including anything hateful? Is it including anything discriminatory? Is it including anything like that? And then if it catches it, then it stops the output before it hits the user and responds, sorry, I can't answer that.
I
So
see.
it's
It's a sort of a guardrails for your output.
Exactly, it's guardrails, correct.
I see. Why can't they prevent in upfront instead of going through the evaluation process?
Yeah, you can. You can do it up front as well. You can put an LlamaGuard at the front saying, check if the question is good or not. And then if it isn't, reject it automatically, right? You can
I see. They do both essentially.
you could do two guardrails. But again, like I said, always make sure of latency as you implement two. How often does it increase? Does it decrease? Can it be catched with a simple prompt? Can it be catched with a reflection instead of a LlamaGuard? Like that's where you have to.
Okay. Since you have additional controls and checks, that's why it increases the latency because you have more compute there.
Correct.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. I need to go. Thank you, Luis.
No worries, no guys.
Hi, Luis. One general question. Do you have the slides for the future class also shared anywhere?
For which one?
For the next upcoming classes?
I wish, Swami. So unfortunately, they brought me into this class probably 2 weeks before I started. Like 1 week, a week and a half before I started teaching this course. So I am making the courses on when I have time, when I'm not studying or I'm not working. So unfortunately,
no problem. No
I
worries.
try to finish up before the week of. But once we have something good and something like that, we'll be able to share their slides earlier before then. But yeah.
No problem. Thank you. Just for some people to prepare in advance so that they can grasp more during the class. Yep.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah. So it's going to be less teaching. Hopefully, these next coming classes, the teaching is going to be like only 10% or 5% now. It's going to be putting into groups. It's going to be working on codes. It's going to be solving issues and solving problems and doing that way. So it's going to be more hands-on as we do the Saturday classes.
Cool. And also then maybe you already shared it. Like, do we have any kind of high-level plan, like week 1, week 2, week 3, like that? Do you have any division like that, or to just get an idea? Or next class we are going to do this or do this, like that?
Yeah, so we have the orientation that was given out before class started that has the breakdown of what we're teaching through each class. So
Okay.
just make sure if you go through the slide, check if all the slides are being saved, the orientation's there as well, and the orientation should tell you what the different topics we're touching on each class should be there.
Perfect. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
And also just one more question for a final project. Let's say, is it relevant to take something like, okay, now I have a database of various kinds of data, and then I would like to have, I would like to ask any question about the data, and then we should get it. Like, would that kind of project be relevant for us in this course?
Exactly. So I'll talk about this coming up because we're on week 3. So I'll give you 3 weeks to sort of start creating your project. But to think about your project, just think of something cool you want to do. Could be I want to have a RAG, or I want to have a chatbot that talks to me about all my favorite cooking dishes, or I want a RAG that helps me decide what I'm going to eat Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and gives me directions of how the ingredients, everything like that, blah 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 blah, right? And I'll walk you through how to do a RAG, not this class, but the one after. And you can use that as a sample and just input the PDF documents that you want for it to learn in this vector storage database, and then see how that works for you.
I see. Like, I was thinking in those lines of like reporting. Let's say I have a large database, and then instead of creating reports, you let users to ask questions, and then they get whatever they want instead of predefined. So that would fall into this category, what we are learning, or is it different?
I would suggest coming to the office hours, starting when you start working on it, because you'll have to do you have to start including a coding LLM that does text to code. So you'll have to first, if someone asks a question, convert that question to a code, whether it be SQL and you have a database, whatever it is you have, converts your text into that question to a SQL code. That SQL code then goes to your database, extracts the information. Then you have the LLM read the database that you pulled out and then be able to answer that way, right? So you'll have to have one more step of having something that translates the text coming into a text to code. And I can give you, again, when you come join the office hours, if we're going to work on that, I can give you a couple of links that have GitHubs that have done that before, so you can follow along and be able to do it yourself.
Perfect. Normally, would that be a complex project, or it is straightforward?
You can even use free ones, like Code Llama is free. There's lots of LLMs that are open source that are free that you can simply use and be able to do that part. So again, I'm not going to say it's complicated because I've been doing this for a long time, so it might not be complicated for me, but hopefully it's not complicated for you. If I can make it sound simple, then that's all I wanted to do.
Perfect. And then also for running something like this, we need a lot of compute power, or any regular system should be good?
So again, it depends what you're using. So if you're using APIs, you don't need to have a strong computer. You don't need the latest computer. You don't need anything like that. And this is why I gave everyone the Google API to start playing with it, because you don't need to have a strong computer or anything like that. But if you're going to start downloading and using your own models, using on your computer, using things like that, then you'll need to have graphics cards. You need to have different things because you'll be loading the models onto your own memory and space. That will consume some space as well, right? So you just have to understand like which ones you're going to be using and which one you can use, and go from there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And also, if anyone doesn't have questions, I have one different question too.
Sure. Just one thing. I think there was a question from Suri. Suri, are you still here? I just want to show something. Did he leave?
No, Luis, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. So I was going to share my screen. Just 1 second. We'll come back to your question, but let me know if you can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Are we good?
Yes.
Yes. So the question was, when we start doing RAGs, how can you adjust the thresholds for similarity? So I just told ChatGPT, just give me an example, because I haven't built that class yet. It's not coming through. But let's say you have 10 document embeddings, and there's different types of embeddings you can do, but we'll get into those later. You can adjust a similarity threshold. So example, you say your threshold here is 0.75 to see how well you can retrieve against your documents and embeddings. So this is where I was saying that you can adjust this to be lower, to be less restrictive, and you can adjust this to be higher, to be more, just like a temperature where we said before from 0 to 1. You can also adjust your similarity scores, because if you're getting something that's too, for example, you wrote something very general and it's giving you something completely wrong, like completely off, then your similarity score is too low. You need to increase it. And you can set thresholds and say, don't give me anything lower than 0.75, or don't give me anything lower than 0.6. You can adjust that way. So that's what I meant by adjusting your threshold and going back to your RAG and being able to adjust this. If your code doesn't have this, your code can be configured and changed to have a threshold. So that's something you can always add in as an extra variable at as you're querying it, to have a threshold, and you can always tell it from there. So that should that was answering to your last question.
Got it. Thank you. Then looks like we have different categories on like here context precision, faithfulness,
Yes, all those,
answer
yeah.
quality, different categories, and what will be the threshold? What is our minimum threshold we want to have it?
Exactly. And that has to be a business decision. So
Yeah.
you're trying to get that to as high as you can, but in terms of your success factors, success metrics, what is acceptable to be we have to figure out, say, okay, if I'm getting over 90% accuracy and 90% context relevancy, 90% that, is that good enough to be a production ready grade RAG, right? And that has to be a business decision from your side if you're doing that from your business.
Got it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Les. Thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying it. Thank you very much.
All right, so you were going with your second question. You had someone else? Or-
Yeah, you're asking me? Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. Yeah.
So then, let's say we have a code base in Git somewhere, right? So now, do we have any already LLMs or anything where it needs to go through all our code base and then ask any questions we ask? Or let's say, even if I'm running into a bug, if we ask, okay, where could be the problem due to this bug? Or even if you want to make any enhancements, can we ask you to do that? And also, it has to be proprietary in the sense, since we'll be giving access to our code base, it should not be exposed anywhere. Do we have anything like that already?
So that's a very good question. So what you're trying to do is what we'll be talking about in this class this Saturday is called a RAG. No, called agents, or an agent. So you can configure agents to do API calls. You can configure agents to hit GitHub. You can configure agents to do certain things, to pull information for you. So example, I want to see what's happening in my GitHub. So you give it the credentials, you give it your GitHub things, and you're giving it your tokens. This agent can go into your GitHub specifically, look at all your folders, and then start analyzing your documents. Then pull the relevant documents that you have, then have another LLM look at it, judge it, correct it, and if it's good, then tell you back to it. So we can do something called that with something called agents. And you may see those on LinkedIn. You might have heard them called like swarm of agents. You can have an agent for your GitHub. You can have agent for your VS Codes. You can have agents to pull from wherever you want and have them incorporated into your code to help you develop that as well. So we're going to go through one that's in the examples I uploaded in GitHub, to how to use an agent to go to Wikipedia and search the whole Wikipedia area for responses. So I had that example that we'll be going through that Saturday. So we can change that GitHub, we can change that to Wikipedia, to a GitHub, and you can and make sure it has a proper like access tokens to get in there and pull the information and do that analysis that you're looking for.
And then those tools can understand the code as well?
No, so the tool is extracting the information, right? So example, it's an API, like you can create a tool that's an API call, right? But you need to build a layer of an LLM that's prompting that agent and saying, okay, I want to understand, like simple, I want to understand the second file in my GitHub. Is it going to run correctly? So the LLM is going to call the tool first. The tool is going to go out, go to that GitHub, pull that second document, pull the information in. Then your LLM is going to go and analyze what the tool pulled, and then be able to respond to you with an answer. So the tool itself is not going to look for you a response unless you put extra stuff in your tooling. But the LLM is supposed to help reason, use the tool, then reason, and then response. And that's how agents, LLM agents work.
One part I last here is like, so which part is going to understand the code? Like who, let's say I'm asking, this file could have a bug. So which part is going to understand the code?
The LLM. So your LLM has to be a very good coder.
I see.
So if you want to, for example, there are coding LLMs. Google has some as well. You can also fine tune an LLM to be a better coder if you have a certain technique you wanted to do, or you can do prompt engineering on it and say you're an official software engineer, developer coder, and your job is to catch bugs, right? So once it goes, you can define it to help capture information, and it depends how smart your model is, can help you and really refine your code to be better, right? You can give it your coding guidelines, make sure you have comments, make sure you have spaces, make sure that you can make sure the functions have all of them make sense, right? Let's say, can you make an account that if there's a function that's put in import that's put into your file that has nothing, that's never even called, can you tell me what that thing is, right? So it's up to you to define your rules of what you wanted to catch in your prompting. And this is why I focus so much on your prompt engineering, is that if you have a really strong model, let's say Gemini 1.5 Pro, let's say, because that's strong, that's free for now. And you can give really good, strong prompts. So making sure it's giving it the role, giving it the context, giving it what it's supposed to be, do the objectives, and really defining what you're looking for. That's good. That could be as good as finding a model that's just a coder and you trying to give it more reason to do, right? So grab your LLM, make it really good, strong prompts, give it all your coding guidelines, give it what it should be testing for, so that when it asks for that tool to go out and get it, it's able to respond, and it's able to reason back with it. So we'll go through that this Saturday as well, because we're gonna go through a Wikipedia example and using different functions, even Python functions. How can we get a response?
Perfect. Thank you.
And Luis, one more question to this one. Can we do this one in the GitHub Copilot? The same thing or no? It's not about.
So GitHub Copilot is to help coders. It's to help coders code faster. I think Google came out and said that 30%, 40% of their code is now AI written. But what they didn't say specifically is that it wasn't writing whole functional blocks. It was finishing the coding line that the engineers or coders were doing. So that's what GitHub Copilot suggests, is to help coders be 50% more efficient by finishing off lines, catching errors, or if you wrote something from a function at the top, it will actually show you at the bottom to help you code that way. So GitHub Copilot is supposed to be more of a helper, make you more efficient, rather than helping you find errors, because I've tested it before and it helps, but there's also some things on it and I'm just kind of like, why did you mess up my code core? Like, so just be very careful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I know we're over time though. I think this was a really great productive questions. People are coming in with more advanced questions, which is great. It's fine. Just make sure we have any questions on whatever we learned about on Saturday. Make sure you guys write in the group, and it was a great conversation, guys. I can't wait for Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Luis. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Okay, bye everyone.